Hello. Good morning. How is everybody today? I join you live from space. Ooh, space. The home, maybe, of aliens. Dun, da, da, da. Hello, those just joining. Good morning. Nice to see you. Hello, Izzy. Good morning. Good morning, Panda. Hi, Imogen and Luke. I'm very good, thank you, Panda. I'm, full of alien nonsense this morning, which is always a good position to be in. Or is it nonsense? Ooh. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll do a little discovery this morning. Yes, we will. We'll just give people a minute more to come in. Good morning, Eva. Oh, that's high in alien. Huh, I didn't know you spoke alien, Eva. That's very cool. Huh. You always surprise me how good at languages you are. So I suppose I shouldn't be shocked that you can speak in alien. Yeah. And if you're wondering what high is in alien, it's one weird little symbol that I don't know the name of. Hashtag. See, we're all learning. Imogen and Luke says that we should remember we are aliens to the Martians. Maybe we are. Martians, eh? Izzy asks if I'm an alien. If I were an alien, I would pretend I wasn't. So I'm going to say no. But that doesn't really help us, does it? Alien. All right. Good morning, those just come in. Right. Let's kick off with today's big idea. Today's big idea is all about aliens. And we're going to go through, aliens is a big topic. It's a big idea. That's the whole point. So we're going to try and squeeze in a whole load of alien information, or at least ideas, thoughts, into this next hour. And we're going to start with a question of probability. We're going to have a look at Christian responses to aliens, which are kind of interesting. We're going to look at aliens in the East, so Eastern religions and their ideas about aliens. We're going to have a look at ancient aliens, the ancient alien hypothesis. Ooh. We're going to have a look at alien fairies, or maybe fairy aliens. I can't quite decide. Maybe it'll make more sense when we've talked through it. We're going to have a little look at some modern aliens in Skinwalker Ranch, and then we're going to end up with the alien religion, which is Izzy likes this alien. She says it's a cute alien. It is quite cute, isn't it? Big grey head, big black eyes, little tiny mouth, tiny little body. So this alien here, Panda mentions Cthulhu. Cthulhu's a good alien. That's true. I haven't got Cthulhu in here, which is a shame. So aliens, we all know what they are, don't we? You look at that picture and you go, that's an alien. Yeah, gotta be. Even though it's a bit strange because we don't have any photos of aliens. We all kind of know what aliens are supposed to look like, or at least a version of aliens that is given to us or has been given to us over the years in popular culture. And so some of the main types of alien, I suppose, they're often referred to in groups by their color. So you have the little green men, you've got the greys. This is a grey, of course, because it's an alien that is grey. You've got people who think that aliens might be bugs, or they might be spirits, or they could be great big tentacle monsters like Cthulhu. But whatever we think an alien might be, there's quite a wide range of philosophical and religious ideas that mean that we can discover or try and work out why or what aliens are, what they might do, and how we should respond to them. So we're going to start with a question of probability. The question of do aliens exist, to me at least, and to many people, comes down to the probability that there might well be something out there other than ourselves. Good morning, Brea. Lovely to meet you. Thanks for joining. So, according to Google, there are 700 quintillion plus, give or take, maybe many more, planets in the universe. That's a lot of zeros. That's 18 zeros after the 700 right there. That's quite a big number. So we know that there is life on one of those planets because we live there. But the chances of there not being life on other planets, if we look at it purely mathematically, seems to be quite slim. Somewhere, at least on one more of those 700 quintillion plus planets, there may well be some kind of life. Now, it could be very, very different to human life, of course. Probably would be, I guess. It could be that aliens are like little tapir-type creatures that snuffle around and eat slime. Or it could be that aliens are little grey men. We just don't really know. And of course, there is the possibility that they don't exist at all. Maybe that's the strange thing about Earth. We're the only planet out of 700 quintillion plus to have life on it. Although it just seems unlikely. So from a philosophical sort of probability, what seems most likely point of view, just using our rational brains, it would seem that aliens probably exist somewhere. The problem is, though, and the real difficult questions come when we start asking if aliens have anything to do or have had anything to do with humanity and the planet Earth, either now or in the far distant past. Ooh, yeah, dramatic. So let's see. I found an interesting article written about different religious responses to aliens. So what different religions have either said or we can assume they would say about aliens if they were to pop up on Earth. So we're going to start with different types of Christianity and see what they say. So the largest group of Christians on Earth, coming in at around 1 billion worshippers, is the Roman Catholic Church, the Catholics. So the Catholics are led by the Pope. Here he is on the screen, looking good, like the hat. And the article that I read said that there has been some thought in the Roman Catholic Church about aliens and how human beings should respond to them. So let's imagine that tomorrow some little grey men come out of the sky. They say, "Hello, take me to your leader." And we take them to what, Boris Johnson? Be a bit weird. But we do that. According to Roman Catholic thought at the moment, one of the biggest questions would be, Brea says, take them to her. Yeah, maybe we could take them to. I mean, you probably wouldn't do a worse job than Boris. I don't know what Boris Johnson would say to an alien. Don't know. I think, yeah, we'll send them to you, Brea. It's fine. The big question will be, do they have original sin? That seems to be what the Catholic Church cares about. Can aliens go to heaven? Or are they destined to go to hell? Because are they related to Adam and Eve in some way? And if they're not, then we need to convert them to Christianity, make them Roman Catholics, so they can go to heaven. But would that even work? Or is heaven only there for humans? I mean, the Roman Catholics are quite clear on this, that there's no animal heaven. The only things that go to heaven are things with a spirit, and the only things with a spirit are humans. And all those spirits are born bad because of original sin, which is the sin of Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden and learning all about good and evil. So it seems that the arguments that are going on in the Roman Catholic Church surrounding aliens isn't so much about whether they exist, but it's how close to humans will they be in a spiritual way, which often, of course, your standard person who's discussing aliens probably doesn't think about their souls. We're more interested most of the time in what do they look like, what special powers do they have, do they have gray skin or green skin. I mean, it's that kind of discussion that we have. But for the Roman Catholics, the real question is, what's going on with their souls? Do they have them, or do they have some kind of alien soul, or do they just have no soul at all, like a dog or a pigeon? Brea asks, do only humans have spirits, though? Well, according to the Roman Catholic Church, yes. No other creature on earth has any kind of soul. Brea disagrees. She says that dogs have a soul, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm just going with the Pope here. Pope says dogs don't have souls. Now, we've got, on the other flip side, I suppose, coming over to this side of the screen here, there's a different interpretation from more evangelical Christians. So if we think about the more modern Protestant churches, there seems to be a general idea within those circles that aliens couldn't possibly exist, at least not in any kind of form that is anything similar to a human. They couldn't speak, they couldn't act, they couldn't, and by that I mean like do things, because in evangelical Christian circles generally, and that's tricky because evangelical Christianity is a big group of churches, but there's a general idea that aliens could not exist because humans have intentionally been made by God as the best creatures. So the idea that there could be a more advanced creature or a better creature somewhere in the universe is absolute nonsense to them. There just can't be, because God very specifically made one special group of people, and that is us. So that's as interesting as it can ever get. Now, that's a kind of an intriguing idea. I like the surety of that. And yeah, Brea here says aliens don't have to be better than us, though. That's true. So maybe an evangelical Christian would accept the existence of like an alien bug or an alien dog, but not an alien that was anywhere close to us. So there you are. And the question does come down to what defines better. So it's from a similar root as our Roman Catholics. The Roman Catholics believe the same core idea that humans are special because they have souls, and those souls are in the image of God, which means we have some kind of godliness to us. We are in some way divine, or at least partially divine. And so an alien couldn't be that, because God chose to make humans, says it in the Bible. He didn't choose to make humans and little green men or women or non-gender specific creatures from space. Now, there is an interesting group of Christianity who seem to be all in for aliens. They seem to like the idea of the aliens, and that is Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, Mormonism is a relatively modern type of Christianity, popped out in the 19th century in America, and that religion is based on the idea that the world is far bigger than just this one planet, that God has made a universe, and that universe is filled with different interesting life forms. It's not just humanity. That seems to be the Mormon message. In fact, there's an idea that when you die in Mormonism, you may get your own planet, one of those 700 quintillion plus planets, would become yours, and you would live on it, possibly with aliens? I mean, I suppose it all depends on which planet you are allocated upon death. Now, there is an interesting reading of the beginning of the Mormon religion, because it was created by a man called Joseph Smith. And he was a young boy, I think about 14 years old, when he was traveling through a field near his house in Eastern America, USA, and he became totally paralyzed whilst trying to climb a gate. He just froze and then toppled back off the gate to lie on the floor. Ooh, it's as if some other force had paralyzed him. And then two figures come out They just appear in front of him in these beams of light, and they speak to him and they tell him to go dig. But the strange thing about this experience, if that wasn't strange enough already, is that once they have delivered their message, the two spiritual figures, which are usually seen in the religion as some kind of angel or saint or something, they sort of flicker, and then they repeat the message again, exactly the same way. And then they do it again. It's almost as if there was some kind of holographic recording. Bum, 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 bum. So some alien believers believe that what Joseph Smith saw was a recording of aliens, a hologram that was just repeated, replayed to him 3 times so that he could go and find the magical tablets that started his religion. Ooh. He was met by these strange repeating figures again later in his bedroom, just opposite a window where maybe a little grey man could be shooting holographic images through it. It's a theory for sure. I'm not sure if it's very believable though. So different religions, they have thought about aliens, and depending on which sort of flavor of Christianity you go for, you can find pretty different ideas about whether they exist or what the interesting things about them might be. Now, in the East, it's all a little bit more, I guess, straightforward. Yeah. In the Hinduism, in Buddhism, and other religions like Jainism too, we see an idea that the world, the universe, is far bigger than we think it is. In Hinduism, we live in a world that is essentially an illusion. It's just layers of reality sort of plastered on top of each other, just sort of hanging around in an infinite space. And very similar to the Buddhists too. The Buddhists think that there are multiple, I suppose a modern word of calling it would be calling it a multiverse, but that word doesn't really come out of the Buddhist texts, those ancient texts that are over 2,000 years old. But the idea is that there must be creatures of all different types, varieties, shapes, sizes, and maybe they come from different planets. Maybe though they come from different realms of realities. There's like different material planes and immaterial planes. In Buddhism, the fire-breathing thing in the picture. I picked this because it just reminds me a bit of an alien. It's not supposed to be an alien, but since one of the classic views of an alien is a grey body with like a thin arms and legs and a kind of a big head, I thought that fit quite nicely, actually. But what we're actually looking at here is one of the hungry ghosts, which is a terrifying thing in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, they have different worlds where a human's karmic balance can be reborn. And if it's a positive karmic balance, so if you've done lots of good things in your life, then you will come back as maybe a person or a god or a titan. But if you've got a negative balance, you might come back as an animal or a demon or a hungry ghost. Ooh. Now, the hungry ghosts are these grey creatures which roam around. Normally, we can't see them because they're in a different plane of reality, but they are around us, and they're always hungry because no matter what they do, no matter what they eat, it just falls out of their stomachs because they're covered in sword wounds, just big gaping holes from swords. So they're like cursed spirits. But it does, makes me wonder, maybe an ancient Indian guy saw a grey alien and thought, haha, that must be a hungry ghost. Depending on when those grey aliens exist or not, of course. Imogen and Luke say that the guy in the picture on the right looks like Aang from ATLA. ATLA. Ooh, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Oh, I totally got it. I had to think then. Yes. Yeah, maybe he does. Yes. I mean, he's a little monk, isn't he? Or he looks like a monk. I don't know. I've never watched it. What is coming back as an animal is, well, coming back as an animal isn't so good in Buddhism or Hinduism for one main reason, and that is that only humans have the ability to consciously and rationally act good or bad, so they can build up karma much more successfully than an animal can. Animals tend to work on their instincts rather than any kind of rational thought, so it makes it harder for them to accrue or lose karma, is the basic idea. Yeah. Oh, and Breya says the airbenders are Tibetan monks, which would make sense because they're Buddhists. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So the thing is that in the East, the idea of there being aliens in a different world or different worlds isn't a ridiculous idea. It's kind of like a, well, duh, of course there's going to be, because this universe is huge, complex, far bigger than we can understand or ever test with science, and therefore there's bound to be something else out there. You know, if we get hungry ghosts and gods with 6 arms and 10 heads or whatever, then yeah, why not chuck in a little grey man? Seems kind of normal, actually. So there you go. Far more open to the idea, maybe. Now, the thing that we're maybe going to spend most time on here is a relatively modern theory, which I'm very interested in this theory, not necessarily because I believe the theory, but I think it says a lot about where our civilization is in terms of understanding our past, our purpose, and of course, you know, we're going to bring some aliens into it too. So I think this is an interesting trend that has popped up really since the 1970s, and has kind of taken over lots of people's minds. If you want to find out about ancient aliens, I mean, it would take you 10 seconds to find YouTube videos or find a documentary on some of the stranger channels. It's a big thing. You know, the bookshops are full of books about this very subject. And so we're going to spend some time looking at examples of how ancient aliens may have existed. Ooh. So Imogen Luke says, there is in theory, there's no reason why aliens couldn't exist. The likelihood is that they've already had their civilizations and died. And that's a good point, isn't it? You know, we say, well, there's probably aliens across those 700 quintillion planets, but what's to say they're anywhere near what we are in levels of sophistication or technology or evolution? You know, there could be huge, massive space empires that have lived and died, or there could be planets crawling with just microbial life that one day will be some kind of super intelligent mind-reading being. I mean, we just don't know where we are in the timeline, do we? Izzy there is talking, I think, about Pluto being a planet, but now it isn't, because yeah, our what do you call it, our knowledge of the universe, it kind of changes, doesn't it? It's always updating and shifting. We haven't really got our own solar system pinned down yet, let alone the rest of eternity. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a big job, isn't it? So if we can't even decide on what a planet is relatively close to home, then how will we ever know what it's like on other planets? I mean, we just don't. Oh, this is a good philosophical idea. Bray here says, what if the universe has rules to stop you seeing other alien civilizations? Because then we would never know if those rules are in place or if aliens existed or not. That could be a thing, yeah. I mean, there could be lots of aliens and they've all just decided that they don't want us to see them. So they just hide, except for abducting the odd cow. But more on cows later. So the ancient alien hypothesis, it comes in lots of different flavors. Probably some of the biggest, or one of the biggest supporters of the ancient alien hypothesis would be Graham Hancock, this author who is either the best person in the world or the most idiotic person in the world, depending on who you ask. The people who believe in his ideas think he's some kind of amazing brain, and people who don't believe in his ideas think that he's a total muppet. But I suppose that's life. Yeah, we'll come to the cows in a minute. And now this is a good point. Izzy says that some people think the Earth is flat. So yeah, I mean, we can't even decide as a human species, can we, on some of the basics? I mean, there's a strong group of people who think that we live on a flat Earth, and that everything that we think about is wrong. So yeah, how could we ever track down aliens with a species like this? I don't know. So the basic idea, the basic premise is that aliens came to Earth a long time ago. We're talking many thousands of years ago, and that they kick-started civilization around the planet. So everything that humans are today, we are like that because we were taught the way and set on a path by beings from another planet. They came down, and not everyone thinks that they're necessarily aliens. Graham Hancock is quite careful, I suppose, to say it could have been just a different race of humans who were far more advanced. But, mostly it comes down to aliens. Oh, there's a very long thing in the chat. Let me see if I can read that very quickly. Yes. Yeah, so Imogen and Luke here are saying that the idea of the aliens would even be bothered with us, even if they did exist, why would they care? So, and that's what the ancient aliens hypothesis sort of bases itself on, is the idea that somewhere out there, either there used to be and aren't anymore, maybe they've all died, or maybe they just came here for a brief period and then left again. But these ancient aliens were here they did take an interest in humans. They wanted humans to act in a certain way and be able to do certain things. And so they taught them stuff. I mean, some of the stuff seems to be a bit weird, but, well, and they kick-started civilization. That's the idea. Ooh, what if aliens are future humans? That's a cool idea. Coming back from the future. Yeah. So let's have a look at some examples here of our ancient aliens. The first one, and the thing that people talk about the most, maybe, is the handbags. Yeah, the handbags. Here we have a relief carving from Egypt next to a drawing of a carving from Sumeria, or Assyria maybe. And then we've got one from Thailand. And you can see they're all holding a handbag. It's a handbag. Nobody knows why statues and sculptures from all over the world. I mean, you can see these with the Olmec statues in Central America as well. Why do they hold handbags? And why are the handbags so similar? Is it because the ancient aliens gave us handbag technology? Ooh, it could be. They just traveled the planet, teaching people how to make stone carvings, how to build temples and pyramids, and how to hold a handbag. It's a strange one, guys. It really is. But nobody knows what the handbags are for. And maybe they're like some spiritual thing. Maybe they're just an alien thing. We don't know. But for some people, that's proof that aliens must exist, because otherwise, how would someone from Thailand and someone from Central America and someone from Egypt all end up with the same kind of statues, with the same kind of handbags? It must be because the aliens told them. Abdur Rahim says that this theory weakens after 3 seconds of examination. Maybe. But the handbags. Yeah. It could now Brea has a very good point here. It could be the collective unconsciousness of handbags as proposed by Carl Jung, which makes a lot more sense to me, that maybe there's just some human desire for handbags. I mean, it would help if we knew what the handbags were. I mean, maybe they're all carrying some special substance or something we just don't understand. I don't know. Now, if we go back pretty much as far as we can into human civilization, we end up at Göbekli Tepe, which is an interesting, very interesting site in Turkey. Now, for a long time, people assumed that the oldest civilizations in the world were like either, and there's a big argument over this, it was either the Mesopotamians or the Egyptians. So those people who went on to become the Sumerians, the Assyrians, the Akkadians, those people, or the people that we know who built the pyramids in ancient Egypt. But it turns out that there have been discoveries which show civilizations much earlier than that. And at Göbekli Tepe, we see signs of civilization going back some, what is it, about 11,000 years, something like that. And they were building big things out of stone, and they were carving them. Imogen and Luke think it might be that the handbags might just be a fashion industry conspiracy. Could be. Yep. Or Izzy says maybe there's an alien company who just sells handbags, just trying to make a profit off these people. It could be. Oh, wow. Abdurrahim can see 3 Among Us characters at the top of the carving. Well, that's it. I mean, this now proves that that the ancient aliens, I mean, that all makes sense, doesn't it? Because Among Us, they're in space, they're kind of dangerous and creepy, and look, they're at Göbekli Tepe, so they must be real, mustn't they? Either that or their handbags. So what Abdurrahim thinks look like Among Us characters, Brea points out, are handbags. It's all about the handbags, people. If we can find out what the handbags mean, then everything will make sense. Maybe. Now, the interesting thing about Göbekli Tepe and also other ancient civilizations, and the reason that people go for this idea of there being, alien involvement where they taught us everything we know, is that Göbekli Tepe has these amazing, huge carvings, and they've all been put into huge stone circles, think Stonehenge, things like that, but maybe more sophisticated for sure, and far older. And then at some point, about 9,000 BC, something like that, the people of Göbekli Tepe covered them in. They hadn't been, they're under the ground, they've been dug up, and they were intentionally shoved under the ground. They just piled up earth and rocks on top of them, and then they built another one that wasn't as good. And then 1,000 years later, they bury that in the sand too, and they build another one. But that's not so good. And the more modern they get, until the people of Göbekli Tepe disappear completely from history, it just gets shoddier. It just gets worse and worse as time goes by. It's like they're forgetting how to do stuff, people. Forgetting what the aliens taught them, maybe. Ooh. Same with ancient Egypt. I mean, the very earliest pharaohs are buried with these amazing pots, which look like they've been made in factories. They're so perfect. They're carved from pure stone, not made from pottery. So someone's taken a block of stone and carved away in perfect circles to make these amazing pots with beautiful handles that look like they've been drilled through. But the later Egyptians, they made kind of rubbishy stuff out of clay. The early Egyptians built the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. The later Egyptians, they built some cool temples with pillars. Why are they doing this? Why don't things get better instead of worse? Because the aliens went home. They stopped helping us build pyramids, maybe. I like this theory. Although I'm not sure I believe it. Now, if we needed more evidence, let's stay in Egypt. Here we have a relief carving of Akhenaten and the baby King Tut and his wife Nefertiti. Now, you'll notice that the people here, they look like aliens. Look at King Tut's head. It's extended out the back, as was his dad's, we know. Very thin little bodies with little pot bellies here, with big heads, with kind of big eyes. And look, here's a spaceship shining down. Ooh. What are the 2 cats on the left doing? This is Nefertiti. I think she's either kissing her baby or maybe getting her baby ready for breastfeeding. I don't know. But no, you're missing the point, Brea. They're aliens. Ooh. Look, we can see the proof. There's a flying saucer. They look like aliens. There's weird handbags, type shapes. I mean, do we need any more evidence that aliens exist? Of course we don't. Unless, of course, we remember that Akhenaten worshipped one god who was based around the sun, and the sun is a big circle with rays coming out. So maybe it's just the sun. Did Nefertiti disappear because she went home to Mars? Maybe, Brea. Yes, let's keep the alien train going. I mean, we know, don't we, that Tutankhamun's death mask was actually probably made for Nefertiti, but she disappeared before she could wear it. Abdurrahim says that he will give us this. He will give them this one because the Egyptians are definitely aliens, or maybe they're just rubbish at proportions. Yeah, I mean, the sort of main sort of central historical theory says that probably Akhenaten and Tutankhamun and his family did look a little bit weird, but probably because they had some kind of genetic disease rather than them being aliens. I mean, we know in all the carvings, Akhenaten's head comes right out the back here, like this great big, well, just like a grey. But yeah, I mean, there are scientific explanations for why that might be. We don't have to say it was aliens, do we? But it gets you thinking. Now, our last item here is not from Egypt or Turkey or anywhere else like that. It's from Germany. This is the Nebra sky disk from about 6000 BC. And this thing, it doesn't really suggest aliens in any way, but it does show us that from the very earliest times, people have been obsessed with the sky, with space, with the planets, the stars, the moon. It's one of the earliest things that all civilizations start to dabble in. Now, the scientific reason for that would be that all the base, every civilization starts off being completely reliant on agriculture, growing crops, making sure that your animals are well fed and watered. And so that links to understanding the sky, because of course the sky, the stars, the moon, it all works on a perfect sort of clockwork system. And you can use that to help you understand what time of day it is, what season it is, when the next season is going to come. So if you're a farmer and you rely on the rain and you need to know when to plant your crops, then you're going to have to look at the calendar, which is the sky. Yeah, that kind of makes sense from a historical point of view. But our ancient alien historians would tell us that actually we're so obsessed with the sky because we were being taught it by the aliens, the people from the sky. Ooh, the aliens told us to be interested in space, and therefore we are. Now that's a good question. Brett asks, do we know what ancient civilizations thought of aliens? And as far as I know, there are no direct reference to aliens at all. I mean, they don't use that word. It depends how you read it. I mean, these ancient alien historians will tell you that the Egyptian gods were aliens, or all the pagan gods of the different religions, these ancient civilizations would have just been aliens. People who lived longer seemed to have special magical powers, and so they were worshipped as gods. So some of these historians would say every time we read the word god or goddess in ancient texts, what we should actually be reading is alien. Yeah, so Zeus was real. He lived on Mount Olympus. He was an alien. Or, Osiris was real. He was an alien. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to argue with. Could be true, I suppose. It just seems a bit unlikely to me. Do you think they'll look back on us and say God is an alien? Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe one day we'll just have an understanding that the God of Christianity or Islam or whatever is an alien. And in some ways, I mean, it's kind of a pointless statement because obviously God is an alien because it's something that doesn't exist on the mortal plane and is far more powerful and is transcendent and immortal, which, you may as well use the word alien. Doesn't really mean anything, does it? The word alien just means something different. So yes, in a basic sense, God is an alien, but it's certainly not a little grey creature with big eyes. Or is it? I don't know. Ugh. Everybody's an alien, says Panda. Maybe that's the secret. We're all aliens. So, just when we thought it couldn't get any weirder, let's introduce alien fairies or fairy aliens. So let me take you to Rendlesham Forest. Ooh, a forest in the south of England, where one night, many years ago, I believe the 1980s, there were strange lights seen in the sky, buzzing around in the forest, red, blue, green, yellow lights. Ooh. Now, Rendlesham Forest today is the site where you can go and you can do alien walks, where you walk around the forest looking for those very aliens. But it became so interesting because these lights became a point of focus for the military. Very near Rendlesham Forest, there is a British military base. And the morning after these lights had been seen in the sky, there were Americans wandering around. Americans in suits with ties, asking the locals questions about the lights in the forest. The government seems to think there's aliens in the woods, men in black. That's it, Brea. It was probably Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Mm-hmm. Now, the strange thing about Rendlesham Forest is that even if you don't believe in aliens, I'm not convinced that aliens have ever been to Rendlesham Forest. It seems like a strange place to go, if you ask me. But Rendlesham Forest has many, many myths going back in time of strange happenings in the forest. People disappearing and coming back, having missed sections of time. So maybe somebody disappears, they come back. I sound like I'm underwater. Well, that's not good. Hang on. Let's see if I can fix it. Is that any better? Maybe? Yep. Oh, okay. Weird. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. So, in Rendlesham Forest, we have, aliens, perhaps. But the old myths about the forest, they talk about the fairies who would take you away only to bring you back again the next day. But for you, 10 years had passed, or 100 years had passed. Ooh, weird. So some people conflate the two things. They say, oh, well, here's a place where there was lots of myths about weird creatures, tiny creatures that would take you away to another world, and then they will bring you back. And they called them fairies or the fae. But maybe those fairies, all those stories about fairies, were actually people experiencing aliens. Ooh, maybe aliens are fairies, or maybe fairies are aliens. That's the idea. Mm-hmm. Now Brea here says, she learned this morning that time moves more slowly on Mars. So if the people were taken to a different planet, then when they had got back, then more time had passed. That would make sense. Suddenly, all those ancient stories, and we can find them all over Europe, Ireland, Britain, Germany, you find stories about fairies. And it's a very common trope that they take you away to another place and then bring you back, and time is different. So maybe that means that Rendlesham Forest really does have aliens visiting it every now and again. But to be honest, I read articles about the locals who lived near Rendlesham Forest. There was one old guy. He went out with these weird guys in suits to have a look at where they thought the lights had come from. And he says he just saw some rabbit tracks and some slight scorching on a tree, which he thinks was made by his mate. He doesn't think they're aliens. So, I don't know. Maybe they were fairies. Or maybe fairy aliens. Mm-hmm. Let's have a look at another modern example, probably the most modern example of alien activity that the world has so far seen. It's the Skinwalker Ranch in the US of A. Wow. Okay, so we've got some interesting pictures here to start with. Skinwalker Ranch is a very famous spot in America, in the world. It was created, strangely, we're going to mention Mormons twice today, but it was created back in the 1840s when the Mormons headed out west into the great unknown, and they cleared land. They got rid of the native peoples. They forced them to leave, none too kindly for a lot of the time. And these people, they had amongst their own myths and legends, the legend of the Skinwalker. Ooh. Now, the Skinwalker is like, how would you describe it? Let's think an evil spirit, maybe. It's a powerful thing that if you are a naughty so-and-so, they only work with naughty so-and-sos. Yeah, you might be right. If you're a naughty person, let's say you've done something really negative in the tribe, you've murdered someone, you've stolen something, you've committed a crime, then a skinwalker might come to you and it might enter your body and it will give you all kinds of amazing magical powers. The big one being the ability to shapeshift. You could 1 minute be a wolf, the next minute be a dog, the next minute be a spider, the next minute be a human again. That's a skinwalker. So this myth of the skinwalkers had been with the local people for a very long time. The Mormons probably didn't know about this myth, or if they did, didn't care. And when they cleared the land, they built a big ranch, a nice big farmhouse with loads of land around it, penned off to be able to keep cattle, huge numbers of cows. And this ranch existed for well over 100 years, people coming and going, different families living in it. But isn't this an X-Files episode? Maybe it is. I mean, if the X-Files were going to do an episode, they'd definitely do one on the Skinwalker Ranch, wouldn't they? Yeah, it's a big famous place. But from about the 1970s, do you think they have one? They have done one about this? Well, that would make sense. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they hadn't. I suppose. I bet they've done ones about Roswell and stuff as well. So yeah, that would make sense. Do I know Star Trek? Not well. I know the basic idea of Star Trek. I know that in Star Trek there is an episode or a film, maybe a movie, where they find a god who is actually an alien. So that sort of got me thinking. But yeah, yes, I don't. There are lots of aliens in Star Trek, aren't there? Things like Klingons and stuff. Yeah, Vulcans. But those aliens are generally they tend to have a lot of human characteristics, don't they? But maybe that's just because they're all played by human actors. I don't know. So this ranch, it's owned by loads of different families over the years. In the 1970s, things start to go weird, like really weird. And of course, we can take all this with a pinch of salt because I don't know the truth of any of these claims. But the people living there who have their cows, they start finding cows that have disappeared, or cows like the one in this picture, where they're just suddenly died and all of their blood is missing. It's just gone. Sometimes the cows are dead and they've got gaps missing. It looks like someone has taken part of the cow away. Usually it's bottom. I don't know why. Aliens are weird. There are stories of people, being with a cow 1 minute and then turning around and the cow disappearing. And in the winter, the cow going missing and they following the footsteps through the snow and it just takes them to a tree and then the cow is gone. There's no footprints after the tree, as if it's been taken up into a spaceship. And now this is point Brea says that predators eat from the back end, so that could be, that could make sense. Abdurrahim says it sounds like a huge capybara. No, not capybara. A chupacabra, which is quite different from a capybara. Could be, like a skinwalker could be a chapacabra. I can't even say anymore now. They could be alien vampires. That's a good point. There you go. Yeah, Imogen says there's loads of X-Files that fit in with this, I guess. So the weird things, they're happening. Yeah, when these things get stranger and stranger, weird things happening with lights outside. There are kids who go into the woods and talk to people who look not quite human. I mean, there's all these different stories built up around it from like the 70s into the 90s. And the interesting thing about Skinwalker Ranch, and probably what makes it so famous, isn't just that there's a load of people telling stories about it, but that for a long time, the FBI set up an investigation of the ranch. They had scientists in there who, if you read their interview transcripts and their reportings, they say things like there were time shifts going on at the farm, or weird things happening with particles that shouldn't happen. The laws of science were being twisted. The idea was that Skinwalker Ranch is not in fact inhabited by skin-walking, shape-shifting Native Americans, but that it has aliens there. Ooh. Now, Imogen points out, or Luke points out, that this is perhaps because it was in the 70s and people were a little bit funny back then. I don't know. Interestingly, nothing weird happened until the Mormons left. As long as it was a Mormon home, there are no reports of strange cows going missing or lights in the sky. But as soon as a new group of people moved into the ranch who were not Mormons, then everything started going weird. I don't know what that means, if anything. Could just be a bunch of hipsters. Oh, and Brea says it could just be the Skinwalkers. Now, that's a point. It could just be the evil spirits. Yeah. Imogen and Luke point out that crazy hippies are not reliable. Well, I don't know. Depends what you want to find out, I suppose. They might be more reliable than we imagine. Ooh. So, Skinwalker Ranch is a great example of how modern people make a big deal out of aliens. Even if the whole thing's a load of nonsense and it's all just been made up by crazy hippies, it was obviously interesting enough for the American government to get involved, to send out scientists who stayed there fiddling around for years. Incidentally, a lot of those scientists afterwards said that it was quite disturbing because the weird things that would happen at the ranch would follow them home, and they would have like weird things happening in their own homes as if the aliens were messing with them. But when it comes down to actual evidence, what have we got? We tend to see lights in the sky every now and again. Could be lots of explanations for that. We've got some missing cows, but no one's actually, talked to the aliens, unless we believe a couple of kids from Skinwalker Ranch who say they did. But there's no photographic evidence. We haven't got any written declarations by the aliens. And this would suggest, this sort of modern idea of aliens would suggest that they are far more technologically advanced than we are. If they can do strange things by warping time and space and particle physics, then maybe they could sit down and have a chat, but they don't seem to want to, which is a bit odd. I mean, if you're going to come down to Earth, it would probably take a long time to get there. Why just mess around with some cows and leave again? Seems strange to me. Hey. Brea says maybe it was ghosts, because ghosts follow you home. Maybe ghosts are aliens, Brea. Yeah. Maybe everything that we think is real is actually aliens. And that's sort of the philosophical problem that we end up with here. So here's my big thought to do with aliens, now that we've covered enough of them, maybe. Maybe there's just insignificant things to mess around with it. Well, maybe that's true, Brea. Maybe the cows and the lights are the important thing to the aliens. Maybe the rest of the stuff we do is just completely pointless to them, and they're just not interested. But the cows, yeah, they're big on cows. I mean, to take that back to ancient aliens, who was the first god that was started to be worshipped by the Egyptians? Probably Hathor, the god of cows. Maybe aliens are cows, or like cows, or dress up as cows. I don't know. It's all getting I'm getting confused. Yeah. Now it could be as well. Imogen here playing the skeptic for sure. Maybe the FBI agents were trying to cover something up. Not aliens, just some other naughtiness that they've been up to. Maybe. Now, here we have a map of the main UFO sightings in the last few years across the world. And this map's very interesting to me because we can almost totally draw parallels between this map and a map of religions across the world, or religious believers. it seems that where we see our aliens are the places where religion is less important, or at least where there are large populations of people who are not religious. Yeah, so the USA, religion is big in the USA, but also there's a lot of people who are not religious at all. Britain, Northern Europe, very similar. Coming out to Russia, our communist world around here, religion's taken a knock over the last century and isn't believed in quite so much. We've got little secular pockets in South America. This tracks nicely here with the section of South America where there is no independent religion. And then we have Japan, the one part of Asia that is, not particularly, or that is more advanced and richer than lots of the other places and less religious. So is it a coincidence that we tend to see aliens in places where there is very little or less religious belief? Could be. In Africa, they don't seem to be being visited by the aliens. Why is that? India. I mean, India and China between them have the majority of the Earth's population. Why aren't they seeing aliens in the sky? Why are the aliens only going to the USA? Seems a bit weird. If I was an alien and I was interested in cows, I'd be down there in India. That's where you're going to find the most cows. So it's all a bit odd. Now, here we go, Imogen. This is my big thought of the day, but Imogen's put it wonderfully, so I'll read hers. Maybe humanity can't cope without a religious figure, and so look for aliens to replace the gods they have rejected. That's a wonderful way of saying it, Imogen, and that's what I'm trying to bring us to. Is it a coincidence that if you're religious, you tend not to see aliens? Yeah, you just don't. But if you're not religious, you've got a bigger chance of doing it. And there have been studies done where they, ask different people from different walks of life, different questions about what they believe in, not just about aliens. But there has been found to be a connection. If you are religious, you tend to have a very low belief in aliens, generally speaking. Yeah. Or you just think they're not very relevant. It's not something that interests you. It's not something you spend much time thinking about, and you tend not to see them in the sky. But if you're not religious, you tend to have a far higher chance of meeting an alien, being interested in aliens, believing in aliens. And so is aliens, or are aliens just religion? Are they just humanity has, as we move away from believing in an all-powerful God and the spirits and the saints and the angels or the goddesses or the whatever they are, we tend to have to fill that gap in us somewhere. We have to believe in something because that's just a human trait, and so we have picked up aliens to be that thing. That probably is a Nietzsche quote somewhere about this, yes. Now, of course, there's an alternative to that. It might be that religious people see aliens just as much as non-religious people. But when religious people see the aliens, they just say, oh, I've seen an angel, or oh, I've seen an evil demon. And they just sort of use that as part of their religion. So it could be that there are aliens everywhere, but it's how you interpret them. If I'm a Christian and I see lights in the sky, my first response probably is going to be, wow, that's the light of God shining above me. This is some message from Jesus. If I'm a Hindu and I see a little creature running around with multiple arms, I might just say, oh, well, that's some kind of religious spirit, or maybe a small goddess or something. And maybe I wouldn't make that connection with aliens. So it could be that my big theory that we just believe in aliens because we have to believe in something is wrong. And in fact, that aliens are everywhere. It's just how they're interpreted. But I think this map kind of says it all. It seems that I can't understand why the aliens wouldn't go to Africa. There's lots of cows in Africa. There's loads of cows in India. So why do we really only hear about aliens in the USA and places that are connected to the USA? It seems strange to me. Unless, of course, Joseph Smith was right. And America's special because Jesus lived there. I don't know. Can I send you a link to that map? Yes, I'll see what I can do, Eva. I'm sure I can put it in an email to you. That's all right. Oh yeah, so Breyer here, perhaps religion is true and aliens is how we interpret magic. Yeah, that's it. So it's one of those two, isn't it? Maybe. I personally think that we create aliens ourselves to make up for a black hole in our religious, what used to be our religious psyche. But no, it could work either way, couldn't it? So there we are. That's our ramble through aliens today. I hope you enjoyed it. And sorry, there's no answers, but the idea of big ideas is there should be no answers. It's just something to think about. And this is a big one, isn't it? Maybe, as they say in the X-Files, the truth is out there. All right. Yeah, so Imogen puts it this way. So, sorry to keep going on, but aliens are used to substitute, or as a substitute, that we can overlap with spiritual and scientific beliefs in Western human, which would make sense. I mean, it explains why we would connect aliens with fairies or aliens with ghosts, or maybe it's just an evolution of us trying to understand the things that we don't understand. Fun times. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. See ya.